Hey guys, today we are going to work on the assignment for Monday, November 30th in Modules 13. Today we are going to work in Onshape to make a couple of 3D models that have non-linear shapes. Well, round shapes. So if you go into the folder for today, you will see this assignment, and we will be creating 3 models today. I will walk you through the first 2. The last one is on your own. So we will be making a football and a sanitizer bottle, and then you will need to create a bouncy ball. Now the bouncy ball has to have a diameter of 1 inch, and you'll submit screenshots of all 3 of your models to this page. If you don't know how to create a screenshot, take a look at the description for this video. I have a link posted there to help you. Alright, so we are going to go to Onshape. We always go to the same place to access Onshape, myips.onshape.com. So make sure that that's where you go. As you can see, I have already created these models. I'll be making a new one just for you. So we are going to go to Create, and we're going to click on Document. And we are going to create both of these models in the same folder. So remember, we always name these a very specific way. So your file should be named 4A, because this is 4th period on A. And then your last name, then your first name, and today's date, which for you guys is 11/30, and then the description of the file. We are going to call this one round shapes. We are going to put all 3 of your 3D models in this document. So make sure that you name it accordingly. Don't make multiple files or folders. So I'm going to click OK, and we will continue to work. Alright, so I've got my document open here. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to Alt-click on this tab, and I'm going to rename this Football. Then I'm going to Alt-click on Assembly and click on Delete, because we will not be assembling these. Then I'm going to press plus and click on Create Part Studio. And then I'm going to rename that Sanitizer Bottle, and then I will make a third tab, which I will call Bouncy Ball. So that way your file has all 3 3D models in the same environment, and it's easy to find your work for this task. Alright, so we are going to start by making the football. And I want the football to have the correct dimensions. So on my second screen, I have the dimensions of a football. So generally speaking, we want a 22-inch circumference, a 5.5-inch diameter, and an 11-inch width. So I'm going to use that as reference, and I'm going to create this on my front face. So I'm going to click on Sketch, and then Front. Using my view cube, I'm going to click on front so that I'm only viewing this on that plane. I'm going to put the line for the center first, and that will serve as our middle line for this shape. And we're going to use a slightly different technique for this model than we have for others, because we're making a non-linear shape. It's not circular, but it will not be straight. Alright, so I'm going to dimension this guy, and I'm going to make this line 11 inches long. I'm actually also going to put another line over the top of this, but it's going to be a construction line, and I will explain why that is in a moment. So click on Line, and then Construction, and I'm going to place it on the axis too, but a little bit before and a little bit after the other line. So that way we've got 2 lines overlapping each other, one that is not a construction line and one that is. Okay, so our football has a curved shape, so I'm going to use this 3-point arc tool. So I'm going to click on one end and then click on the other end, and I'm just going to place this for now. Now obviously when I place this line, it's not necessarily lined up with the origin. So the first thing that I need to do is I need to apply a midpoint constraint so that the origin is the midpoint of my line. So I have clicked on this side, and then my origin, and then on this side, so that it's perfectly centered. Then I'm going to place a point at the midpoint of this curve, and I'm going to use the dimension tool to give this the proper size. So from this point to the origin should be, well, the diameter is supposed to be 5.5 inches. So I'm going to type in 5.5 divided by 2. That is the true to size radius for this side. Okay, so at this point we've got the correct length and we've got the correct width, but here's the thing. In this current model, this tip is kind of pointy, and so I don't want it to have that shape. I don't want it to be so pointy, and I'll show you why. So if I finish the sketch, I'll go ahead and make this the way that I'll make it in the long run, which is using the Revolve tool. Now, you may have noticed we've got just kind of a drawing here, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense as a football. But using the Revolve tool, we can select this face, and then we can choose an axis to revolve the shape around. And when I do that, you see that it completely pulls that shape into 360 degrees. And so now we've got this blimp looking guy here. But it's a little bit pointy. So we're going to fix that. So I'm going to double click on my sketch, and I'm going to edit this to make it less pointy. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use this 3-point arc tool, and I'm going to try to ballpark this. So I'm going to put the first point right here or so, and then I'm going to put the other point on the opposite side of the construction line of there. Make sure that that little blue dot is oriented along our construction line. And then I'm just going to turn it around so that this guy, it'll end up being just a little bit shorter than 11 inches, but at least it'll give us a little bit of a smoother tip to our football. So I'm going to click that guy there, and then I'm going to use the trim tool to remove some of these unfriendly edges. Oh, hold on one second. That is actually not touching anything, so we're going to fix that. So this point needs to be coincident with this line. We've got a couple of issues here, so we'll delete that guy. Now we'll try to make it coincident. Oh, I see. It's coincident with the Revolve. That's fine. All right, so then we're going to use the snip tool here to get rid of some of these lines that we don't need. So we'll get rid of that guy. We'll get rid of this guy. And we're going to get rid of this side line on the other end. So that gives us our nose here. Now I'm actually going to do one other thing because I don't want to go through that process again on the other side. So I'm going to use a construction line and place it vertically through the center of my shape. And then I'm going to snip the other end of my football off, because I can use the mirror tool to make that shape happen on the other side. So now we've got a mirrored version of our football on both sides. If I click check on my sketch, you see, boom, it automatically made my football look more like a football. And so that's as crazy as we're going to get with a football right now, except for one thing. I'm going to alt-click on part 1, and I'm going to edit its appearance, and I'm going to make it look like a football. So there, I can change the color of the model to make it look a little bit more like a football anyway. The color's not quite right, and the texture is definitely not right, but it's good enough for now. All right, so the next model that we're going to work on is the body of a hand sanitizer bottle. This is similar to what you would see with the hand sanitizer bottles that we had in class with the pumps on top, but today we're just going to work on the bottle body. So I'm going to create a new sketch on the top view, and remember, you can also alt-click on the plane to create a new sketch. So I'm going to do that. click top on my view, and I'm going to start applying the dimensions here. So the first thing I'm going to make is a circle, and I'm going to make it 6 inches. Now, if you forget to type it in right after you click the circle, you can always use the dimension tool and click on the edge of the circle to give it that 6-inch size. And then I'm going to extrude that bottom up 1/2 inch. So I got to close out of my sketch by clicking the green checkbox, and I'm going to extrude this circle up 0.5 inches. Now, on the bottom of the hand sanitizer bottle, there's actually a little bit of a curve, so I'm going to use the fillet tool to give it that rounded bottom. So this is the base of our hand sanitizer bottle. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new sketch on the top of this circle. So I'm going to alt-click on this top circle and make a new sketch on top of it. And that sketch is going to be a circle again, but it's just going to be offset of the other one by 1/8 inch. So I'm going to use the offset tool right here to do that. So I can click on the edge there, and you can see it automatically wants to pull it out from there, but I can pull it in the other way instead. And I'm going to double click on this little spot right here to pop this out, which asks how far do you want to offset it. So we're going to offset it 0.125, which is 1/8 inch. And we're going to click the checkbox to finish that sketch. So now I can extrude this interior circle here, and this guy is going to get extruded quite a ways. It's going to get extruded 5 inches. This is the main body of the bottle. Okay. So then I'm going to make this shape that we have on the bottom happen back here on the top. So I'm going to do the same thing again and make an offset of this top circle 1/8 inch. And you can also just type in 1/8. That also works. And then I'm going to extrude that guy up 1/2 inch. Make sure you click both circles. Okay, so now this is starting to look like a bottle. But we've got some square edges that we kind of need to take care of here. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to use the fillet tool to round some of these edges. So first, I'm going to apply a fillet to the interior edges where the two parts meet, like that. But I'm going to make these 0.1 inches instead of 0.2. All right, so now you can see we've got a little bit of a curve here between these two surfaces to just kind of blend it a little bit. This thing is made out of plastic, so we want some smooth edges. And then we're going to do another fillet to the outer edges as well. And that looks okay. All right, so there is our bottle so far. You may have noticed I haven't done anything to this top edge, and that's because we are going to make it to the part where the lid is. And so we're going to use a couple of different tools here that we haven't used before. And the first one is called an offset plane. Now, an offset plane allows me to draw above a shape. So up in my toolbar up here, I'm going to select this box with a box on it. And this is the plane tool. I'm going to click the plane tool, and then I'm going to select the top of my bottle. And if I orbit to the side here, you can see that it's trying to create a new plane similar to my front, right, and top planes down there, but it's above the model. So I'm going to create an offset plane that is 3 inches above the top of my bottle that I have so far. And I'm going to click the checkbox to finish that off. So you can see that box is just hovering there. So I'm going to alt-click this guy and click New Sketch. And I'm going to make another circle here and this circle is going to have a 2-inch diameter. So using the circle tool, I'm going to place this at the center, and I'm going to call that 2 inches. Make sure that as you're doing this that your sketches are fully constrained. We want to have everything properly dimensioned. Alright, I'm going to finish this sketch. And now the reason that I did this is I can use a tool that's called Loft. Now Loft is a cool tool because it allows us to connect 2 points on our shape with a 3D shape. So I'm going to click on Loft. I'm going to select the bottom of my bottle here. Well, the top, I guess. And then I'm going to click on the circle that we just made in the plane. And look at that. It created this conical shape there that connects the two. Now it's kind of starting to look like a missile or something. And I'm going to click the checkbox to finish that extrude, or the loft. So far, so good. So we've lofted those two together. Now I'm going to make another sketch on top here with another circle. And again, centered on the origin here. It's going to be 1.5 inches, 1.5. Finish the sketch. And we're going to extrude that 3/4 of an inch up. Just going to create the very top of the bottle here. And then I'm going to create an offset sketch on the top here by creating new sketch using the offset tool. We're going to offset this by, we're going to offset it by 1/2 inch, like so. 1/2 inch may be too much. Let's try 1/4 inch. And then we're going to extrude that guy up about 3/4 of an inch. Make sure you select both circles when you do that. See how it says face of sketch 6 and face of sketch 6? That's because when we look at our sketch here, we've actually got 2 circular shapes. So we want the interior circle and the exterior circle, like so. Alright. So that is the primary shape of our bottle, but now we can make it a little bit fancier. So we're going to apply just a couple of touches here just to make it look nicer. So the first one is we're going to round the cap of our bottle. We are going to round this outer corner right here. And then I'm going to use the chamfer tool on this interior edge right here to get not a smooth corner, but to angle the corner between those 2 pieces, kind of like a loft. All right. And now the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make one more sketch here on this bottle, because right now in my model, the lid is fused with the body. So I'm going to create a sketch on this interior circle right here, this outer ring, and I'm going to use an offset from the outer edge, and I'm going to offset that in 1/16 of an inch, which is not much. That's going to make up the edge of the lid. And then I'm going to use the extrude tool on the opposite part of that and click on remove. Now we don't want to remove it all the way through. We just want to remove essentially parallel with this line right here. So we want it to just be where the top of the cap is. And so now if we looked at it from underneath, we can see that that cap is just sitting on top. Now we could get even more detailed and add threads to both of these parts, but we're not going to do that today. So there is our hand sanitizer bottle. And if you wanted to, you could go over to part 1 here and edit its appearance to make it look like a bottle. All right, so the last thing that you need to do today is you need to create the bouncy ball. My recommendation is that you would do something similar to what we did with the football and use the Revolve tool to create it. You're going to have a really hard time using extrusions to do a bouncy ball. If you have any questions or if you need anything, please make sure that you speak up and ask. I'll see you guys next time.